Hello and welcome to another Out of Spec Reviews video. In this video we will be reviewing the Polestar 2 in a mix of driving scenarios, but I also wanted to let you know this is the start of our September special. Across all of Out of Spec's channels, the majority of our videos, I can't guarantee everyone, but most of them will be fully focused on electric vehicles. So this is sort of September electrified. We'll have a ton of fun videos coming for you. By the time you watch this video, I'll be in Munich, Germany, driving a whole bunch of weird, wacky, cool, and wild EVs all across, doing top speed tests on the Autobahn and seeing a whole bunch of new EVs and different cars that won't even make it here to the US. In today's video, though, we're starting off all the fun with the Polestar 2 with Performance Pack. Now, there's a pretty interesting reason why the Polestar 2 is in here right now. We only have a short period of time with it, and I really want to get you all of the best driving impressions. And Polestar 2 with Performance Pack comes with really cool adjustable Öhlins dampers. We've tested them on other cars, V60 Polestar, XC60 Polestar, etc. However, the Polestar 2 has similar shock adjustments, but in the rear, Timon, how would you say that it is?
It's honestly not that bad. You take out two things, pull the wheel liner back, and then you take a top hat off and just twist it.
Right, so not that bad to adjust the rear, but it does need to go up on a jack, and then you can dial in the suspension. What we're doing now is dialing it into their track settings, so setting 1 in the front and setting 2 in the rear out of 20, so full stiff. We're going to take it out on the canyons at the beginning of this video. Before we do that, though, join me around this way. I want to tell you a little bit about the car, show you around it while Timon's working on it. Again, I've already done a range test on this vehicle that's live on Inside EV's US YouTube channel, and we'll have a charging test coming probably tomorrow on this channel. So part of our coverage is testing EVs, part of our coverage is reviewing them and seeing if they're good to drive or buy, etc. But here is the Polestar 2. This particular one, near as makes no difference, $65,000+ the way it's kitted out. It's a 2021, which means it does not have the updates that 2022 will have. For 2022, there will be a front-wheel drive only version, and then there will also be, the same all-wheel drive version here, but with the addition of a heat pump, so maybe slightly more efficient. Anyway, I did the range testing here on the Performance Pack, probably the worst version of Polestar 2 you can get for range because of the big wheels. Some say it's a sedan, that's what Polestar says. I say it's more of an SUV or a hatchback. Take a look at this rear opening. You can see quite large. And come on in, take a look at the trunk space. You can see really big. There's some innovative, sort of storage solutions under here. Very similar to a lot of Volvo stuff, but of course it's not a Volvo, it's a Polestar, which is Volvo's electric arm, but Volvo's also going all electric. Don't ask me how that makes any sense. I don't know. I'm here to just review the car. Looks great, I think. Inside, we'll talk about it when we go for a drive. Timon's setting it down. We're going to adjust the other damper over here. We'll get it out on the road and we'll talk more about the Polestar 2.
So I adjusted the suspension all the way, so the easiest way to do it is just go all the way to 1 and then go 1 click back so that you're at 2, so you don't have to count every single click you make. So now we're just lowering it. It's in its track setup, so that's 2 in the rear, 1 in the front, and Kyle's going to have some fun.
And we only have to do this 2 more times throughout this test. Wouldn't it be nice if they were electrically controlled? But that would lose the flair. I feel like it's special doing it this way.
It here and just had an extension piece to turn it.
Right. Well, what's nice about the V60 Polestar and Volvo stuff with the same dampers is you can do it at the top of the strut under the hood, but these are mounted upside down, so you have to do it at the bottom. I like it. I think it's cool. You guys are always complaining about how dirty my car is in videos, and a company called EV Wash has reached out to solve this problem. This is a reusable, sustainable washing system that's branded specifically towards EVs. Take a look at this. It comes in this really nice carrying case. I can open it up. I have all of the towels I need, all of the different equipment I need, for example, glass cleaner. And when this really nice bottle runs out, you can purchase a refillable, 100% biodegradable refill pack, fill up your bottle, and that way it's much more sustainable than normal car cleaning products. EV Wash, use the code OUTOFSPEC30 for 30% off your order. Link is in the description. You join me in the Polestar 2, and because I have the Napa leather option, I think it's $4 or $5 grand, I get cooled seats, so that's kind of nice. So at least ventilated in this case. Before we go and just drive it, already, you know, having the dampers turned up to track mode, just a massive difference here. Wow. So I can't wait to experience this car on a back road. Genuinely have not driven it fast yet. And as a sporty sedan electric SUV hatchback thing, I'm really excited. This car is right up my alley, right? So it's electric, it's cool, it's modern, it's Swedish design, it looks cool, it gets a lot of attention, it's premium, but it's not pretentious, very similar to Volvo products. The reason I love Volvo so much, almost every vehicle there. And, you know, while this isn't a Volvo, everything kind of feels like a Volvo, and that's a great thing. The climate control knobs are straight out of Volvo. Everything's the same. You know, it's got the Polestar R design steering wheel, the really thick rim. Love it. Love the design in here. Before I, you know, just go on and geek about this car, there's a couple things we need to talk about. First off, the specs. Price, this one's about 65 grand the way it's kitted out. So we have, you know, a maxed out Polestar 2. Every option available this car has. So performance pack, the driver assistance pack, the luxury, all the stuff, the Napa seats, right? The gold seat belts come in the performance pack. It has all that. 2 electric motors, 150 kilowatts each, identically sized permanent magnet motors. So under wide open acceleration, you don't have more of a rear bias system. It's actually equal power front and rear. I think that's pretty interesting. We haven't seen that from many EVs. Many EVs have a larger rear motor and a smaller front motor to give you a little bit of sense of oversteer, a little bit more rear bias control. And so to me, that feels a little bit conflicting with giving you the big brakes and the crazy suspension, but then we'll see how it's tuned. We'll see how it feels coming in and out of corners. In terms of competitors, you have Volkswagen ID.4 all-wheel driver GTX on the lower end, much lower performance level, not nearly as designed to be as handling crazy. Of course, you have its own brother, XC40 Recharge. You have, what else is in there? Mustang Mach-E, I think, would be the main competitor, a performance-oriented sort of all-wheel drive vehicle. But I'm not comparing this car to any of those. We're just going to be looking at the Polestar 2 as one holistic package today, and then in the future, if you guys would like, we'll review some other ones. Let's talk, what do we have? Battery pack stuff. 78 kilowatt hour gross, I think 75 kilowatt hour usable. At least that's when the car was new. It's received a few software updates over time that have really improved the car and improved the driving. I remember I was one of the first to drive Polestar 2 in the US, and it was good, and I wrote a nice review and made some videos about it. And I said, you know, there's still room for improvement through software, and guess what? Polestar actually stuck to their word and made these software improvements as they went on. So that's a really important thing. There's one side of it is an automaker can say, we support over-the-air updates and we will do them, and then actually doing them. And Polestar has been doing them, and quite frequently every month or two, based off the history of this car. So that's impressive. Just as a side note, build quality feels amazing. Material usage inside is absolutely gorgeous, very tasteful, between this sort of natural wood grain with these modern textures. I really love the interior design. I love the exterior design. Something about the C-pillar rearward doesn't do it for me. I don't like this sloping down design. I kind of wish it continued more of a wagon hatchbacky feel. For me, having 2 big dogs, that would be helpful, but the rear seats fold down, it wouldn't be a problem at all. Another note about the battery pack is, for me, 2 things are very important about an EV, which are the overall range of the vehicle. If you go back to our range test, this did about 225 miles. Nearest makes no difference at 70 miles an hour. I think that's great. So highway range is north of 220 miles. That to me is pretty good. However, the charging curve that we tested was not so good. You'll see that tomorrow. It wasn't terrible, it really isn't. It's livable, but you know, 0 to 80% was fine, but when you factor in a 0 to 100% time, it was just about 2 hours, and that's about an hour longer than ID.4 and some other EVs that I've tested. Again, not directly comparing them in the same area side by side, but just as a reference, the charging, based off of my experience, didn't feel that amazing. Let's take it up to a mountain road now that we have it in full maxi max, and the suspension, I'm feeling really firm. I'm sure there are some owners that are going to drive it like this, but are not. And some of you might be wondering, wouldn't it be nice just to have a suspension control on the screen? Well, you have to remember who Öhlins are. Öhlins are some of the most high quality dampers that you can get in racing, in street cars especially. It's very on the high end. So having this, it's north of a Bilstein, for example, in terms of quality, and having the manual adjustment to me leads to an air of specialness, something interesting and exciting, and knobs you can turn. And I kind of like that you have to go out of your way to adjust the suspension. Gives you a much broader breadth of adjustment than some of these electric dampers do. So we have it in track mode now. Let's take it up to the mountains. Let's not sit in traffic. We'll do that later on in the video. Again, it's gonna be like an hour-long video, I think, but hopefully you'll learn a thing or two about Polestar, and hopefully I will as well. I have it charged up, 93% state of charge right now. When we reach the mountains, we will probably be a little bit lower than that, but I'll try and drive efficiently so we can save as much juice for the twisties. We're approaching the mountains. An absolutely beautiful day. It is toasty, 90 degrees. So here are some of the things that I'm going to be looking for on this performance test. I'm going to be looking for mainly power duration. So even here at 90% state of charge, I can't even use all the regen available. I can see part of that display is grayed out, and that's just because the battery's pretty full. It can't accept a ton of current going into it when it's high. However, very few cars, really, I can only think as Tesla being the only one where you're not able to use full regen. This does have one pedal driving. I will be driving with it in the strongest setting. I'm also going to put steering into standard. I generally don't like an over heavy steering, but I don't like over assistance either. Creep mode is off for low speed. We are going to run ESC sport mode once I take it off pilot assist. So we'll have it in all kind of the sporty settings. There's no full traction control off, but there is ESC sport mode. One last thing before we get into it, I wanted to talk a little bit more about the charging. Polestar says this car will do 150 kilowatt peak charging. We found that to be true, but we only found it from about 0 to 10% state of charge, and then after that it really tapered down. So for me and road tripping, it didn't really have a meaty center of the pack. It charged really fast and then died and kind of sat there. The top end of the pack wasn't terrible. Above 90% though, it really cuts down, to be expected. The thing with Polestar is it's not like e-tron where there's massive buffers top and bottom of the battery pack, so you can charge 150 kilowatts all the way to 80%. Here in this car, they're actually allowing you to use most of the battery pack, so it is gonna have to taper up top. Nice thing is you have a really cool charge limit display, so you can adjust the car in 10% increments to stop charging from 40 to 100%. Polestar recommends 90% every day. I would probably do 80% on mine, and if I'm going away on vacation, I would run it down, plug it in at 40%, and just keep it plugged in. Batteries don't like to be very high charge when you leave them for a while. Also, importantly, this car is a 48 amp onboard charger, so that's what, 12 kilowatts, something like that, AC charging. So if you have a home charger, because this is quite a large battery pack, and actually last night I finished the range test and was out again early this morning and had 100% charge, and that's all thanks to the 48 amp onboard charger allowing me to get chargers in. Thankfully though, you can adjust your amperage level intake in 1 amp increments, I believe down to 5 amps, and that's so important. And so many EVs miss this, where some of them like ID4 really only just have a limit amperage draw. Tesla and this, I think, are the only ones that really let you go 48 amps, 47 amps, 46 amps max, and that's perfect because I have an adapter that goes from Tesla to J1772 that's limited to 40 amps, and I'm able to use that adapter, set the car to 40 amps max like it is now, and I don't actually overheat the adapter or push it past its design limits. So let's just try some handling here. Oh, big difference. I can't wait to get this up the hill. It's going to be a little bit trafficy today, but we'll find little spurts to open it up. And the other thing I wanted to mention was the Google UI here in this car. It's really well done. It does a fairly good job of routing charging stations for shorter trips. So from like here in Fort Collins going to Salt Lake City, it can do, and it routed that. But if I try to go to LA or New York, that's too long of a distance for it to automatically add chargers. So I'd say it's good. It's been getting better because when I tested Polestar 2 a year ago, it wouldn't even automatically route chargers. So things are getting better. Also importantly, when it says the percentage that you'll get to your destination, first of all, it says that, that's awesome, but it's also extremely accurate. Every single time I've put a destination in this car and I drove like a sane person, like I would normally driving around, I arrived at the destination with exactly the amount of electricity that the car predicted I would have left. That is really impressive. I can't even say that for any other automaker. It's really blown me away, actually. I've had some friends with me too. We're like, all right, let's try this out. Really, really good energy usage prediction here. You can also download more apps from the Google Android store. You can use your phone as a key. I tried to set it up, but I didn't have admin access to the car, so I wasn't able to. But either way, it's nice that you're able to do these things. I love the UI in this car. I love the center display. I hope through software you're able to do more and more things with it. But what a great, snappy, quick, intuitive interface with great amount of control over your settings and your information. I'm just really totally blown away by the integration of everything. So let's try and get past some of these cars, rip it up some back roads, and see how she does when we turn it up to 11 or 12. Arriving here at the base of the canyons with 87% state of charge. This 4Runner's actually getting it pretty hard in front of us. That was awesome. He just threw it into that corner. So let's see how he can do. For sure the Polestar can keep up. We are on summer performance tires thanks to Polestar's 2 Performance Pack here in this particular tester, and this is good. You know, we'll get past some of this traffic here in a little bit, but let's just start to feel out the car. First of all, let's talk throttle application and acceleration. The throttle is very sharp, and I'm not sure if that's a good thing. I sort of like a long pedal travel, a pretty progressive input, and here it's almost as if there's just a half a second delay based off of what I'm doing. Like there's this sharp point that I'm hitting that just is like, oh, power, and it's instant. And so it's really good when you put your friends in the car and you boot it and it's like, whoa, and it's quick. I want to say 450 horsepower, 430 horsepower, something like that. 300 kilowatts of power combined system output. And here at 86% state of charge, you know, it makes most of that. It's really awesome. The battery pack in Polestar 2 is actually a really high voltage pack. So 440, 450 volts full and about 385, 390 dead. That's almost like e-tron levels of high voltage, which is awesome because it means there's less current needed to reach your desired power output, which means in theory less heat loss. So we'll see about power derating when we drive it hard. We may have to pull over and let some of these people go up ahead. I think we'll just slow down here a little bit, get a sense for the feeling. So throttle is strong and it's a little bit sharp and it's a little bit snappy. But I don't know if that's a bad thing. I think a lot of people would like that. For me, I just wish it was tuned a little bit more progressively. This car does have the newer software update that does allow for smoother motor control. Man, when you go wide open throttle, this thing is surely capable. Let's lean it into this corner. ESC Sport mode on. Understeer City on power. So it's really good until you try and crank it out of a corner. Let me tell you what I just felt through that corner. It was an awesome turn in. When you get this thing into a corner, it uses all of that front tire, but the rear just feels like it's along for the ride. That was just that corner. We'll see how it feels through the rest. Steering feel is great. Steering ratio is fantastic. I'm really into the steering on this car, actually. Let's try firm, a little bit too firm. Light is, yeah, way too light. Standard, that's for me. Big power. Wow, no denying power. You don't need any more than this, that's for sure. It's more than enough to have some fun with. The thing that I wish I could do a little bit more of was when I nail it out of a corner, this is where I would want that larger rear motor and a smaller front motor. It plows a little bit, and there's also quite a bit of torque steer. So to actually unwind the steering wheel and go back to an on-center position, I'm noticing that I have to actually physically pull the wheel back center, which is something I can't say I've experienced in many cars. Let's slow down through here and pick up the pace again a little bit. I mean, you get the sense that this thing's working for sure, but man, is it quick and it's a weapon. I can't wait to try out these brakes a little bit more because that seems to be just an incredible brake pedal that I've never felt this level of brake pedal blending in an EV other than maybe Taycan Turbo S. So with carbon ceramics, that's pretty awesome. Just chuck it into this corner. A little bit understeer, but actually the back was coming around there, so maybe if you just stay in it and you're persistent, it'll be kind of fun. Overall, definitely gives the impression of performance. It's definitely fast, it's definitely serious when you turn the dampers up. That's the important thing here. We are now in the levels of seriously good suspension design when it comes to EVs, and that is just a great thing to have here in the Polestar. What's kind of cool is I get this gauge on my screen that shows power and regen, and then when I touch the brake pedal, it'll show me how much I'm blending the friction brakes in, which I really, really, really enjoy. So what I'm going to do is come to a stop up here. We'll let traffic get ahead, and then we'll actually drive this thing pretty properly and see how it feels when we push it, because all indications lead to maybe not a very spicy, oversteery, drifty kind of car, but certainly one that is enthusiast in nature, predictable, easy to drive quick, and it's not going to scare you if you get it mixed up. You kind of just, you know, it diverts to understeer here. So let's just pull over here for a second. We'll let everyone get ahead, and I'll catch up with you in a minute. We're approaching some of the best corners here on this road, so launching off the line, big power, gives full power at 38 miles an hour. That's when it feeds it all the way in. So let's try it out. Normally, I actually prefer a softer car on the street, and such hard suspension dampening isn't always great on the road. Sometimes softer is faster. I don't know if that's the case here. Wow, you can carry some crazy speeds through here. You've got to be kidding me. That is impressively quick. Wow. All right, so when you really get up Polestar 2, does it handle really well. The best part about an EV is you can drive like your hair is on fire and no one knows you're coming because you're not making any noise. Absolutely love that. So far, I've been doing a lot of sort of hard accelerations and hard regens, no sense of power cut. That's impressive. Let's go wide open throttle up this way. Still giving me full power. Man, is it quick up top. Definitely dies a little bit up top, like some EVs certainly do, but this wasn't like anything else, so that was cool. That was the 4Runner driver. She was awesome. She gave us a thumbs up there. And really, really impressive throttle control, impressive thermal longevity for an EV already, and that's more than, it's gotten better than when I drove it for the first time, is what I'm trying to say. Back to wide open throttle. Oh, wow. Okay, I am really impressed here. So many other EVs would have thermal throttled at this point that make this much power. So props to Polestar for tuning out even some of the thermal throttling that I experienced early on. You've definitely optimized your package here. Wow, you can carry some serious speed through some of these corners. Now, it's not really set up the way I would personally prefer it. I like a car to move around on the back axle, and the back axle on this is really planted. You can definitely tell they took the approach. Let's try the brakes really quick. Oh, my eyeballs just got pulled out of my face. Great braking performance here with the Brembos. There's a squirrel in the road. Don't want to hit it. That's great. When you have suspension set in track mode, you can just and it just darts around. Really good suspension calibration here, but again, that back end is firm. So effective, more aggressive than most people will ever need on the street. Again, that's why it's called the track setting, and I'm really loving this package. It's interesting. It's unlike anything I've driven because it's so aggressive in setup, yet so little oversteer. It's so balanced and neutral that you can just throw this thing around corners. It handles really, really well. Efficiency isn't terrible either. That's crazy. I mean, we just went hard throttle up the hill. I've used less than 10% state of charge. In many other EVs, I would have burned through more juice than that. So call me impressed here with this car's level of capability when driving it quickly. Wow. I don't even hear fans on. Air conditioning's running great. Sometimes when you drive EVs hard, the AC cuts out. Oh boy. So really, the main negative with this car for me is just the charging curve. If that could be improved, I might buy one, because everything else is so good. Sound system's good, not great. Wish we got the Bowers & Wilkins like Polestar 1 had. That's a great system, but it's more than acceptable. Hard power down through here. Wow, does it put on the speed. you need some serious power up here at this altitude in a combustion vehicle to keep up with this thing. It just freaking, I mean, I won't say the number, but whoa, standing on the brake pedal, throwing it in. One pedal drive calibration is really good. Yeah, firm over the bump. I would actually back it a couple notches off of track mode for street use if it were me. But boy, can you hammer this thing around. Over the crest. Best section of the road right through here. Hard power. Whoa! Holy, this is like built to carve up a back road. Very few EVs and combustion cars can drive at this level of competence standing on the brakes. That's good. Nice ABS calibration as well. I was able to just get it right on threshold braking. And no sense of thermal throttling? Are you kidding me? I've been driving this car hard, still giving me full power. Now at a lower state of charge, that might not be the case, but up here at high state of charge, yeah, there's a little bit of thermal throttle. A hint. But I've seen it like in early days when I first tested this car, it thermal throttled to the point where the gauge was like, sorry, you can't really have any more. They have optimized the hell out of this chassis. Let's test it on some of these tight corners, big power. That's the understeer. That's where I want the big rear motor to pivot the car around and rock it forwards. But does it climb up this hill better than almost anything I've tested up here? Oh, yes. And the motors sound good. Look, there are EVs that won't make it up here without thermal throttling 10 miles back on the road. Oh, and it's still pulling. And there are combustion vehicles, sports cars, that will not make it up that hill driving as hard as I was just driving on a 80+ degree day, 90 degrees at the bottom. And this just rocketed up. Oh my goodness, am I impressed. I think maybe adjusting some sway bars in the aftermarket, things like this, would allow the car to rotate a little bit more. But look, as far as a weapon goes, for a keen driver who's, you know, if you're interested in speed and performance, oversteer is not the answer. It's more just fun and experience. This is actually quick driving. Wow. This performance driving might redeem that charging curve. It might just redeem that charging curve. That, I'm speechless. Very few cars I've driven that handle that well up here. For something that weighs this much and is like built on Volvo's CMA architecture, which is compact modular architecture. This is like XC40 is built on this, like normal pedestrian mom mobiles. And then you just hand the suspension to Öhlins and say, good luck, make something magical. They've made something magical. Oh, wow, am I impressed and blown away. Truly blown away. I knew it was going to be good. I didn't know it was going to be this good. Can I just end the review there? Do I need to tell you anything more? No. We're just getting started. The fact is, Polestar 2 with Performance Pack is... I really don't even know what to say. That never happens. When have you ever heard me stop talking? Holy smokes. Impressive. So we just finished the hard blast up on my Canyon loop. I do this loop almost every day in a whole bunch of different cars, and it's usually pretty predictable, but wow, was this impressive. You can hear the fans are going, so they definitely are running to cool the drivetrain. I mean, we definitely ran it hard enough to kick on the fans, but holy smokes, can this thing run hard and run for a while. It's not, wow, that's impressive. That's hard on a car. I don't know how to explain to you how hard that is. Look at how good it looks up here too. May as well take the time and show you a little bit around the car while we're just taking a little break. You can see no Polestar badging on the car anywhere. Nice boot space. Looks pretty good under here. All feels very normal, very Volvo actually. I hate to say Volvo in this review, but it's true. Of course, we talked about charging on the way. J1772 and CCS here. Little pin. I would take that cover off on my car. Very European, as you have to push this button to unlock the charger. It doesn't really listen to the latch on the J1772 port, typical for Euro EVs. Back seat's good, heated rear seats, glass roof, no shade. Even on hot days, I haven't found it to be a problem. It's been good. Really love the wheel tire combination on this. Actually, maybe I would personally go with like a Pilot Sport 4S, but Continental Sport contacts seem to fit the car pretty well. Once they get some heat in them, they really grip and do well. When they're cold though, they kind of are like bricks, but that's the nature of a summer performance tire. Interior up front, obviously stellar, just beautiful. Wish, you know, if they were going the luxury way though, I wish they would give you the electrically adjusting thigh bolster here, like the Inscription Volvos have. It's in the parts catalog. The Bowers & Wilkins sound system, the aluminum pedals. It does not feel all the way premium, but it does feel reasonable given that this car is priced a little bit less than those vehicles, and it's a full battery electric. So let's head back to the garage. I'm gonna have a great time shredding it back down the canyon, of course. I'll let you know how the brakes hold up on the way down when we get back to the house. We'll put the suspension in normal and we'll take it for a cruise around town. All right, heading back down the hill. Shall we do another launch? I don't believe there's like a launch control programming. Left foot hard on the brake, flooring it, doesn't do anything. Oh, it launches hard pretty. This thing boogies, I gotta say. How is it performing this well? And there's near triple digits. Just it really is the perfect level of performance in terms of acceleration for this class of vehicle. I am just blown away. I keep saying that. Wow. Wow. Great chassis control, predictable. I think I want to back it down a bit. If I had it longer, I'd go a couple notches back for a back road. See you back at the garage. I'll test the brakes out on the way. Thermal management system is blowing me away though. Truly blowing me away. We are now back in the garage with the Polestar 2 after driving it up that awesome road, and we are putting the suspension from full track to full comfort. We're gonna get the night and day feeling here. The reason we're doing comfort now, and then we'll put it to nominal, which is sort of how they're delivered and how we want to return the car back to Polestar, because that's the way it came to us, is so we don't have to adjust it twice. We just have to do it one more time after this, and then we'll do the normal. So we're actually going to hop on the highway now, and then we'll drive it around town later on. We got it charging back up. We burned quite a bit of juice on that drive, to be expected driving it hard, but I have to say, considering the harshness of driving, I guess is how I would put it, it actually did pretty well from a thermal management perspective. The Polestar 2 also has a frunk. Let me show you. Opening up the door here, I'm going to pull on this little tab once. It's going to open the frunk. And let's see, it's over here on the right, I believe. Yep. And it opens up. Interestingly, with the Volvo logo, you can always just follow the line up and then you'll reach the hood latch release, but here it is. And this is the mobile connector that comes included with your Polestar 2. This is actually really nice. Take a look at this thing. So you have this sort of circular style connector, and then you have a NEMA 1450 pigtail and a 110 outlet that can attach onto here. That's awesome. I love that they give you a NEMA 1450. Big win. Very few EVs do this. That's awesome. And what a nice solution in this small thing. I think it's only 32 amps, but it's all you need. Gotta love it. That's sweet. So Timon, we're gonna go all the way clockwise and then 20 clicks to the left. How does that sound?
Easy as cake.
Easy as cake. I mean, it's not as easy as like just hitting a electrically adjustable comfort button, but it does add to the experience. Well, but I don't understand. What are you supposed to do? Just pull over before a back road?
I guess so.
Just keep a jack in the back? I have Polestar 2 in sort of max comfort mode now. I haven't driven it yet, pulling out of the driveway. Oh, already smoother. Incredible. Like that first little nick out of the driveway. let's head on to the highway and see how this thing cruises, try some of the driver assistance stuff, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty brake pedal blending. I don't think I mentioned too well during the mountain drive, but one of my biggest standouts of this car, there were three, of course. One was just the sheer cornering speed, not the way that it oversteers out of a corner, but it was very neutral, and it just hammered through once you got heat in the tires. The second thing I really loved, of course, was the brake pedal feel and calibration. I didn't really talk about this. It's very hard to distinguish when it blends in friction brakes. I have to say they've done a stellar job. Really, the only thing as good as this is Taycan with carbon ceramics. Just incredible. And then the other thing I really loved was the thermal management, of course. Overall, incredible on a mountain. But let's see what it's like cruising in comfort mode. I will say off the bat, it's very quiet driving around, near silent experience. Still hammers just as well though. As we make our way over to the highway, I wanted to show you this. This is the Polestar key, and it's really not nice. Like, really not nice. I don't know if this is the main key or the spare key, but every time I've driven a Polestar, this is the key they give me, and it's like the spare key for a Volvo. It's really light, totally plasticky. Man, is it just ugly, and it doesn't feel nice. The Inscription Volvos use the same key, but they're leather wrapped and so much nicer, and I think leads to a more premium experience. That key is not nice. Does it matter? To me, yes, but to most people, probably not. We're on a really rough point of tarmac here on pavement, and it is dead quiet compared to most other cars. It's very interesting how well insulated this car is, and even more so how few squeaks and rattles there are. A lot of new cars don't have squeaks and rattles, but there's a sense that this is just screwed together really well, more so than most any other car I've driven. I mean, most new cars don't squeak or rattle, but this really doesn't have any noise. It's just very solid, feels like it's carved out of one piece, and it honestly feels better built than most other cars out of Geely Group that I've driven. So let's jump on the highway just up ahead here, get it up to speed, and try some of the driver assistance stuff. So, about to merge onto the highway. We'll give it the beans getting on. Here we go. Little delay off the line, little lag, power down. Man, does this thing just rocket up to speed, no question. Very different character of vehicle now with the suspension back down. I don't want to pretend and say it's soft. It's not. It's still a firm car with the suspension backed off, but what it does is it seemed to have taken the edge off going into Polestar's comfort setting, and I would say it's more than fine to daily drive for most people, but if you live in an area with really bumpy roads, it's still pretty firm. You know, at the end of the day, it's a performance-oriented vehicle, kind of rides as such. However, here on the highway, eats the miles up. I actually drove this car last night on a range test with the suspension set at nominal, which is 8 clicks back. We're 18 clicks back and 20 in the rear right now, so big difference. And I thought it was very comfortable on the highway, still firm over the bumps, but more than adequate for a long trip, and I still think the same thing here. We're going to bring the speed up to 80 miles per hour. I've activated Polestar's Pilot Assist, so there's 2 different levels of assistance. I can click the right arrow, and I can go just on adaptive cruise control like I am right now. Or if I click the right arrow again, it will re-engage Pilot Assist, and Pilot Assist is using a sort of single camera, reading the lines, is a very basic level 2 driver assistance system. I think is all that you need personally. So it doesn't do lane changes. I click my turn signal on, move the car over. I don't have to re-engage. It re-engages automatically, which is one of the best features for sure. And look, it does a great job of just staying in its lane. On the highway, this is pretty much how I drive this thing. I've done a lot of highway miles in this car now, and just Pilot Assist everywhere. It's stellar. Even with the sun at low angles, I've been very, very impressed. You do have different following distances here. I believe, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. One, it actually gets really close, which is important for a driver assistance system to do. What I want to do now is not touch the steering wheel. So let's see what happens. How does it try and get my attention as sort of a, you know, safety driver assistance test? Right now, no hands on the wheel, no warnings whatsoever. I got my first warning. It says hold steering wheel with a picture of hands like this. Well, I'm monitoring, not going to hold the wheel. Now it's gone red and it's dinging at me. All right, let's see what happens next. No one's around. Still dinging at me. Oh, it says canceled. Resume active driving. Emergency stop assist is activated. It's steering, but it's slowing me down. It's just coasting right now. It's actually applying little throttle. Oh, a brake there. Another brake there. Another brake. Trying to get my attention. Another brake. No one's around. Another brake. Now it's hard braking. And I think it's just going to bring me down to a stop. And yep, we got to accelerate because there's a truck coming behind. Big power. That's awesome. I love that it tries to warn you over and over. It brakes to get your attention. It's not nearly as aggressive as Volvo's braking, or excuse me, it's the same as Volvo's system. It's not nearly as aggressive as Audi's braking that just like honks on the brakes, like, and I think that warps rotors. So very impressed here with the driver assistance system. I can reactivate pilot assist, so I'm not in like autopilot jail, and cruise right back down the highway again. It's very important that systems try to get your attention if you don't touch the wheel in case you have a medical emergency. So many cars that we test just say, oh, you're not touching the wheel, let me turn that off. But it keeps cruise control going, and that to me is very dangerous. So props to Polestar for designing, I would say, a much safer system than most. I would love to see some more various types of driver monitoring here, such as eye tracking or even a haptic steering wheel. This one is torque input, so it doesn't know if you're touching the wheel. If you're lightly holding it, sometimes it'll ask you to hold the steering wheel like it is now. I actually need to put a little bit of steering input into the wheel for it to recognize. But overall, the suspension backed off like this is comfortable. The noise level is very low. The sound system is a 6 out of 10, I would say. I wish it had a little bit more bass to it, a little bit more depth and clarity, and maybe in the future we'll see them offer their fantastic Bowers & Wilkins sound system. And as a cruiser, it's great. The only downside to this car that I can really see is the charging curve. I actually think it's priced really well too. For 65 grand, you get like one of the most special, cool, unique cars on the market. Anyway, let's put the suspension into nominal, into the Polestar recommended setting, drive it around the city, talk about the acceleration and braking characteristics, the light or heavy steering feel, and some more UI stuff. And then we'll call it a review. We've arrived back home, and listen to the little reversing sound. Just a little ding out the back. That sounds pretty funny. Little chime. Wow, I'm impressed with it like this. I would never drive it in track mode on the street. I would just turn it up for a weekend blast. Now we're gonna set it to normal mode, drive it around town, and then we'll put it in comfort for the highway portion. But wow, is this thing stellar on a back road. That makes up for like almost everything about it, is just how well it performs. It's now getting a little bit dark outside, and you join me in the factory nominal setting, as Polestar calls it. So we'll talk about the suspension in a bit, but let's talk throttle and regen blending. This is something that a lot of EV people want to know about. This, specifically me, if I was looking for a car, this is what I would want to know. So there's a few different settings of one pedal drive. The first is one pedal drive off. There's only one forward motion gear, D. It doesn't like have an L or anything. And with one pedal drive off, it just coasts. So my foot's off the accelerator pedal. I have no regen, no power. Maybe a hint of regen just to give you a little bit of a pullback. The gauge just went a hair, like a pixel to the left. But pretty much it's just straight coasting. Then I touch the brake pedal, it's blending in regen, and I didn't even use friction brakes there. So let's try getting on the brakes a little bit harder. Bringing up the speed on the brake pedal, and now it's blending friction brakes. I know this because I get an orange display that comes in. Amazing brake pedal blending here. You can barely, nope, you can't feel the the blending point. That is one of the most impressive braking systems I've ever experienced in an EV, and I have to say that's just awesome. Also, special shout out to the turn signal noise here. Really nice turn signal noise. It's crisp, it's not loud, it's not intrusive, it's just right, and it does raise its volume the faster you're going, which I really enjoy. So that's one pedal drive off. You hit the brake pedal, blends in Regen, and then it goes friction. Then we can go one pedal drive low. So as I lift off the accelerator pedal, I get some Regen. As I hit the pedal more, it goes more Regen, and then blends friction brakes. Perfect example here of that red light. One pedal drive in low, it feels very similar. It feels stronger than a Tesla in low. Let's go to standard now. I also have creep mode off and auto hold on. If I put creep on, then the car will move forwards. If I come to a stop and push hard on the brakes, then it will still auto hold. Awesome programming. But if I just come to a stop with creep normally and lift off the brake, yeah, and I don't push hard on the pedal, then it'll stay the same. Oh, it looks like this guy next to us wants to race, so we'll try and do something like that. ESC sport mode, steering and light. We'll see how that happens. But for now, we have one pedal drive in standard, creep off, which is how I drive the car. Same thing with auto hold. If you push the brake hard, goes to auto hold. It means you don't have to keep your foot on the brake, and that's just a great feature. So we'll just nail it from the light, say goodbye to that guy. And that was pretty easy. One of the best parts of this car is just blowing people away at the lights. Really love that. This thing freaking rocks. It's fast. So those are your 3 one pedal drive settings. Personally, I'm a standard guy. I really like a ton of Regen a ton of the time. And there they go now, thinking they won. Sentra SER, rare car, actually pretty hot car for its time. That's pretty neat. Don't really see many of those. You also have really good headlights, very bright headlights in this car, and like nice headlight startup animations with the taillight as well. I think this car looks amazing at night with this beautiful backlighting inside around all these different units here. Gorgeous car, daytime or nighttime, especially at nighttime, I would say. I think Volvo and Polestar just do a great job with tasteful backlighting. It's nice. Now, suspension in nominal. This is 8 clicks back, front and rear. This is, you know, how I've been driving the car most of the time. It's how it was delivered to me, and it feels good. Probably a bit too firm for everyday driving. If it was me, I would actually drive the car in comfort and then just go maybe a couple notches off of sport or track for back road driving. It is worth noting though that Polestar says they were only responsible for Polestar 2 if you drive it in the pre-selected parameters. So if you do what like I would do if I owned one, which is go a couple notches off the recommended track setting, I'm guessing your warranty is in question if you have a suspension issue. I don't know, seems a little silly to me, but that's what it says in the handbook. I guess they're just protecting themselves. How would they even know it's a passive system? I don't know, but that's something, you know, you got to take into consideration. Anyway, this thing rocks. I have steering feel in light. We have everything in normal, one pedal drive on standard, and look at how much regen there is. Just a ton of regen, and it comes to a stop so nicely and crisply. When it comes down all the way to 0, so smooth, and it just engages auto hold. I mean, that is smoother one pedal driving than Tesla. Not that that's a comparison, but it's better calibration on the decel. Now the throttle from a start I still think is too wonky. It's almost like there's a little bit of a lag, so like you can put the pedal down a little bit, but if you go a little bit harder, it like slams the power at you. So foot down a little bit, not much, and then like you move it an inch and it's whoa. So I think they need to smooth that power curve out. I mentioned that when we drove it out in the mountains. It's a little bit, I wouldn't say it's annoying driving around town. Some EVs have really bad pedal calibration, but it certainly could use a little bit of smoothing, I would say, just to really make it feel refined. Right now it just feels a little early production to me, I would say, but no motor cogging. Even at low speed, under high load, very little cogging. You do get a little rumble, but that's natural for permanent magnet motors to do that. Overall, very quiet, very refined drivetrain, especially with some of the updates in the software. I would say it's just not as good as some other EVs could be. Like Taycan's really, I think, gold standard for throttle calibration. And foot down, you can just rock it away around town. Gotta love that. Other than that, it's small, it's easily maneuverable, it's got a great steering ratio, it's like a lock and a half turn to turn. I will actually demonstrate the turning circle for you up here over this way, and then we'll call it a review. How about that? So coming into the corner here, you can see just lightly tapping on the brakes, throwing it in and accelerating out. You can get across town so quickly in an EV and so quietly, and sort of like no one's looking at you if you're driving really fast, which really is the best part of an electric car. You just drive crazy. So here we are, full turning circle, really good, have to say. Pretty good lock. Wouldn't say it's stellar, but better than almost any other small combustion SUV. Maybe I should say it's stellar. And the steering returns back to center nicely. The only time the steering doesn't return back to center is if you're flooring it, or you're getting a lot of power output with lock on the wheel. Then you kind of have to force it to go back to center. Other than that, I think that's a review. I love the UI. I love driving this thing. I think it looks really neat, especially up front. People seem to like it. And it just has an air of specialness. It's unlike other things on the road, and I like how Swedish the design is. It definitely appeals to my eye. And there you have it, the Polestar 2 with Performance Pack. I hope you enjoyed this sort of in-depth driving review mixed with a little bit of information throughout. It's not very heavily focused on the styling, design, or interior space of the Polestar, which I believe there's plenty. I'm 6'1", I fit in the rear, I fit in the front. The rear, cargo space is great, the front trunk is great. Overall, I think it's a really nicely put together package. Also, while considering the chassis is designed to handle other types of propulsion. This isn't a ground-up EV. This CMA platform handles combustion, mild hybrid, plug-in hybrid, and full battery electric. Pretty impressive, all coming from one chassis. And I think here is actually one of the best thought out EVs. My biggest gripe with this car, and one of the real things I think Polestar needs to work on, is that charging curve. Personally, for me, it would actually hold me back from owning it as my personally owned vehicle, replacing my Tesla Model 3. I would need 150 kilowatts to at least 40-50%, and then a nice smooth taper after that. I really hope we're able to test Polestar 2 again after some more software updates, because I'm sure they can get that right. I also think that there can be a little bit of work done with the charging station route planning, doing longer routes, preconditioning the battery on the way to the charging station, things like that. Sort of that deep level integration, I think, could use a little bit more final work. But overall, as a Polestar's first battery electric vehicle, I think it's a great vehicle. It's certainly a performer, really fun if you're a keen driver. If you like to drift around and do silly stuff, this is not for you. But if you actually like getting down a back road really quickly, this thing can definitely do it. I think it looks the part, it feels the part, it's definitely special, it's unique. If you want to be a little bit different, a little bit premium, give that Swedish vibe to your daily life, this is the answer for sure. I'm very pleased and blown away with this car. Just wished it charged a little bit better, and then that would be that. Really awesome performer right here. Thanks for watching another Out of Spec Reviews video. Again, throughout the whole month of September, we are doing primarily EV videos, so stay tuned, subscribe, and be prepared for plenty more.